You're not going to like this, but it's already happened, somewhere between the last time they laughed at you and the last time you laughed at yourself. You died quickly. No funeral. No flowers. No one noticed. The person you used to be, the one who begged for approval, who apologized for taking up space, who flinched every time someone raised their voice, that person is gone. You just haven't buried the body yet. You're still carrying it around, dragging it through your daily routine like a ghost wearing your face, answering to a name that doesn't belong to you anymore. And that's the part nobody warns you about. Death isn't always violent. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it happens in a bedroom at 3 a.m., staring at a ceiling, asking yourself one question you can never take back. How did I let it get this bad? That question is a scalpel. It cuts deep, and once it cuts, there's no stitching the old version of you back together. You tried, don't lie. You tried to go back to who you were, tried to pretend the wound never happened, tried to laugh at the same jokes, chase the same people, want the same things. But it didn't fit anymore, like trying to zip up a jacket that belonged to a smaller, weaker version of yourself. That's when you knew the old you didn't survive this. And here's the part that should terrify everyone around you. Something else did. Something colder. Something quieter. Something that doesn't explain itself anymore. You stopped announcing your plans. You stopped begging for permission. You stopped waiting for people to catch up to your pace. And they noticed. They noticed the silence, the distance, the way you don't flinch anymore when they try the old tricks, the guilt, the manipulation, the "you've changed" speech, delivered like an accusation instead of the compliment it actually is. Yes, you changed, because the version of you that stayed the same died in a war they'll never understand. Let's talk about that war. Nobody sees the war. They see the after. They see you standing taller, speaking less, moving different, and they assume it happened overnight. Like you woke up one random Tuesday and decided to be powerful. That's not how it works. It happened in silence. In the nights you didn't sleep because your own thoughts were louder than the room around you. In the mornings, you forced yourself out of bed, even though every cell in your body wanted to stay buried under the blanket, safe, invisible, unbothered. It happened when you were betrayed by someone you trusted with the softest parts of yourself. And instead of breaking completely, you broke, and then rebuilt something sharper. That's the war. Nobody claps for that war. Nobody posts about it. There's no highlight reel for the moment you sat on the bathroom floor and realized the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones who hurt you the most. But that moment, that exact moment, is where the old you flatlined and the new you took its first breath. Here's the terrifying truth about that new version of you. It doesn't need anyone's approval to keep moving. It doesn't wait for permission to level up. It doesn't explain itself to people who only knew the weaker version, the one who used to shrink in rooms, the one who used to over-apologize, the one who used to accept less because they didn't think they deserved more. That version is gone. And the people who loved that version, they're confused now. Some of them liked you weak. It made them feel safe. It made them feel superior. It made the comparison easy. But comparison doesn't work anymore because you're not competing in their game. You built your own. Let's go deeper. Because this isn't just emotional. This is biological. Your brain rewires itself based on repeated pain and repeated decisions. Every time you told yourself, "I can handle this," instead of "this is too much," your nervous system recorded it, filed it away, built new pathways. Every time you chose silence over an explosive reaction, you were training something inside you that most people never train in their entire lives. Discipline isn't a personality trait, it's a scar tissue. It only forms after damage, and you have the scars to prove it. That's why the old you can't come back. Not because you don't want it to, but because biologically, structurally, psychologically, it doesn't exist anymore. The wiring changed, the tolerance changed, the threshold for what breaks you changed. You used to fall apart over a text message. Now you could lose everything overnight and still show up to work the next morning like nothing happened. That's not coldness, that's evolution. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. Here's where it gets dangerous for everyone around you. Because the new version of you doesn't perform anymore, doesn't beg to be understood, doesn't chase people who left, doesn't explain the silence, the distance, the sudden disappearance from group chats and gatherings and situations that used to drain you dry. You just left. No confrontation, no closure speech, no dramatic exit, just gone. And that terrifies people. Because loud anger, they know how to handle. Loud anger gives them something to react to, something to argue against, something to twist into a story where you're the villain. But silence. Silence gives them nothing. Silence makes them replay every interaction, searching for the moment they lost you. And they never find it, because there wasn't one single moment. There were 1,000 small ones, 1,000 tiny betrayals of trust that you absorbed quietly until the container simply stopped holding. That's the moment the old you died, not with a scream, with a quiet exhale. And now here you are, rebuilt in secret, recalibrated without an announcement, operating on a frequency most people around you can't even detect anymore. You wake up earlier, not because a motivational video told you to, but because your mind doesn't rest the way it used to. It's always building something, always calculating the next move, always aware that comfort is the enemy of everything you're trying to become. You eat different, not because of a diet trend, but because you finally understand that your body is the vehicle for everything you're about to accomplish, and you refuse to sabotage it with the same neglect that used to define you. You speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you learn that every word you give away for free is a piece of leverage you'll never get back. This is the part they don't understand. They think you got arrogant. You didn't get arrogant. You got efficient. Every ounce of energy that used to go toward proving yourself to people who never planned on believing in you now goes toward proving something to the only person whose opinion actually determines your future, yourself. And that's terrifying to watch from the outside. Because people built entire relationships around the version of you that needed them. The version that would drop everything for a crumb of attention. The version that mistook being used for being valued. That version had to die, because as long as it existed, you were available, exploitable, predictable. Now you're a variable they can't calculate, a pattern they can't predict, a person who used to answer every call, respond to every message, show up to every event out of obligation, who now moves like a ghost through the same spaces, present but untouchable. Let's talk about what replaced the fear, because fear used to run your life. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being seen as too much, or not enough, or different, or difficult. That fear is dead too. What replaced it isn't fearlessness. Let's be clear about that. Fearlessness is a myth sold to people who've never actually been tested. What replaced it is something more dangerous, familiarity with pain. You're not afraid of the worst-case scenario anymore, because you already survived it. The betrayal already happened. The public embarrassment already happened. The moment where everyone expected you to collapse already happened, and you didn't collapse. So now the threats that used to paralyze you just don't land the same way. Someone threatens to leave. You've already survived worse departures. Someone threatens to expose your weakness. You've already exposed it to yourself in the mirror at 2 a.m. with nowhere left to hide from the truth. There's nothing left for them to use against you, because you already used it against yourself first, in private, in the dark, in the moments that built the person standing here now. This is why broken people become the most dangerous version of themselves. Not because they want revenge, because they no longer fear the outcome. And a person who doesn't fear the outcome cannot be controlled. Let's talk about the ones who left. They'll come back, not out of love, out of curiosity, because word travels, because your silence started making noise in rooms you're not even in anymore, Because the version of you they dismissed, doubted, underestimated, started showing up in conversations they didn't start. And when they come back, they'll test the waters carefully. A message here, a like on a post there. A "we should catch up sometime," vague enough to reopen the door without admitting they ever closed it. Here's what they don't understand. The door isn't just closed, it was removed from the frame entirely, because the version of you that needed that door open died in the same silence that built everything you are now. You don't owe them access to who you became. You don't owe them a front row seat to the show they refused to watch during rehearsals. They had their chance to witness the process. They chose the outcome instead. And outcomes don't come with backstage passes. This is the part where most people get it wrong. They think transformation is about becoming someone unrecognizable. It's not. It's about becoming someone undeniable. The eyes are the same. The name is the same. But everything underneath, the standards, the tolerance, the willingness to shrink for comfort, all of it got rebuilt from zero. And here's a truth that's going to sting. Some of you reading this, you're still holding the funeral for that old version. You haven't let it go yet. You keep checking their profile. You keep replaying the argument. You keep hoping the version of them that hurt you will somehow transform into the version you always wanted. Stop. That's not loyalty. That's a delay tactic. A way to avoid becoming who you actually need to be. Because becoming that person means admitting the past version of you. And the people who came with it has to stay in the past. The old you is dead. Let the people who only love that version grieve with it. You don't have to attend that funeral. You have somewhere else to be, because right now, while you're reading this, somewhere out there, someone who doubted you is about to see something that makes their stomach drop. A result, a win, a version of your life they didn't think was possible for someone they used to know. And in that moment, they won't remember the argument. They won't remember the reason they left. They'll just remember one thing. They had a front row seat to this, and they walked out before the best part started. That's not revenge. That's just consequence. You don't need to announce your transformation. You don't need to post proof. You don't need closure conversations or dramatic confrontations to validate what already happened inside you. The proof will show up on its own. In your posture, in your patience, in the way you handle situations that used to break you completely. People will ask what changed. Tell them nothing. Let them wonder. Let the silence do what explanations never could. Make them question everything they thought they understood about you. Because here's the final truth, the one that should sit with you long after this ends. The old you didn't fail. The old you finished its job. It survived long enough to build the foundation for who you are now. It absorbed every disappointment so the new version wouldn't have to start from zero. It endured every betrayal so the new version would recognize the pattern before it repeats. That old version isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to bury with respect, and then walk away from without looking back, because right now, in this exact moment, you have a choice. You can keep visiting the grave of who you used to be, or you can start building the empire the new version of you was always meant to run. The old you is already dead. The only question left is what you're going to do with what's still standing.